The old story of feeding a wood stove. You can't go to the stove and say, give me fire and then I'll give you wood. You have to give the stove the wood before it can give you the heat. When we surrender to the fire, when we surrender to the passion of who we are, who we've come here to be, the divine vision for our lives, we have countless ways to explain it or to describe it. But when we really surrender into that, all things become possible. The universe doors open for us. The universe starts to line everything up. And we come into a greater understanding of how we really can show up in the world.
I'm Eamon, and today's guest is Dr. Robert Brzezinski. He is a little bit about him. He is currently the spiritual and creative director of the New Thought Media Network, ntmedia.org. You can find it there. A lifelong student of transformational leadership. He is passionate about exploring the emerging experience of virtual community as a form of spiritual activism. He is a visionary thought leader who continually finds ways to share the new thought, spiritual philosophy in paradigm shifting ways. Robert, welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So great to have you on the show today.
Yes.
And just loved what you were sharing. You're sharing for the summit, which we just completed. That was on listening for the fire within. And as I was listening, it just reminded me of this quote from Thoreau. So I'm going to start there today. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I had come to die, discover that I had not lived. I just love that. That's one of my probably favorite quotes of Thoreau's.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to the deeper nature of what you're talking about, the fire within, that passion, that soul purpose. And so let's just dive in there. Talk a little bit about listening for the fire within, Robert.
Thank you. And I love that quote, that passage as well, because we often go to the woods, to the forest, to the wilderness, and some forget to bring back what they learn to the cities and to the towns and to the people that haven't had that chance to get away. And for me, that's part of all of this is our title is Listening for the Fire Within. And there's two primary components. We got to listen and there's got to be some fire. And I really believe the fire is always there. However, humanity, human experience, living in a human world, it's easy to be, brainwashed, really, to not pay attention to our passions, to put those things off. And you can do that after you make some money or after you're successful. And so many people have been, kind of almost conned, let's say, into not embracing their inner passions, the inner fire. It's always there, but we cloud it, we hide it, we run from it. And what I have found for myself and for so many people that I've been working with for the past 20 years, and you're a great testament to this as well, I've watched you do it as well, Eamon, is when we surrender to the fire, when we surrender to the passion of who we are, who we've come here to be, the divine vision for our lives. We have countless ways to explain it or to describe it. But when we really surrender into that, all things become possible. The universe doors opened for us. The universe starts to line everything up. And we come into a greater understanding of how we really can show up in the world. The fire is always there. Am I listening to what the crackle is telling me? And that's, I think, the fun of what we get to do in this world is then say yes to that.
Yeah, having sat with many fires, living here in Colorado, I've also done a lot of sweat lodges. So tending to the fire was a joy of mine for sure, because it is always alive. It is that aliveness. It has that, like you said, that crackle, that pop, that, that heat, that experience of presence is really there. And so to use that as kind of that metaphor to being present to our own lives, to being present to what that fire is within us, that passion, that joy, that soul purpose, that, it can easily be usurped. Like I have to admit, in my own life, I've avoided it. I've postponed it. I've hit the pause button. I've done just about everything that I could do with this soul's purpose. And eventually it keeps coming back and back and back around until you're like, okay, all right, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
I avoided ministerial school for about 10 years that way. And, I'm so glad I went into that fire, because it was such a healing process for me, especially as a neurodiverse person, going back through school to heal those wounds, which was part of my soul purpose.
Right.
And then on the other end of that, now being a minister, I get to be able to show up and enact that soul purpose, which is supporting men. If I had to speak mine, just supporting men. And that's been the joy of my life. I've been doing it for over 30 years. I've been involved with New Thought for over 30 years. So it is that deeper calling. And that doesn't necessarily end with, okay, now I know what it is. Oh, the New Thought men's community. Okay. Right. Now I'm done. Great, it's complete.
Here's your diploma, here's your scroll, here's a little cord, and you're good, right? Yeah.
Go have a nice life. But in some ways, that's when the real work begins.
Yes.
Is when we get clear on what is that soul purpose, and what is that life path, and when we're done with the distractions of the money or the all the stuff, the trappings of life that we have to deal with, and not making any less or any lighter of any of those, being a human being, being a parent, being a individual in relationships, in many relationships, in business and friendships and intimate relationships, all of that stuff is a powerful part of the soul's journey, I believe. And it's all builds on each other to the place where we're finally, I think, for me anyhow, I guess I can only speak for myself, so I should probably speak for just me. But for me, once I found that passion, that true soul's purpose, once it was revealed, there was no going back. It was like, oh yeah, okay, that's what I'm here to do. And I think to take that risk, to do that inner work, I sat with that question of, okay, if I'm going to go back to school, what what are you asking of me? What is this grand vision? Like speaking to spirit as if it were some outside, I had my Catholic relapse, I guess, as if it was some outside deity that was going to say, hey, amen.
I need a contract. Let's put this in writing.
Here's what your plan is.
Yep.
But it was that inner voice that said, hey, you've been doing men's work and you've been doing new thought. Just bring those two pieces together and share that with your community. And, that's been the joy of my life, really, to bring men's work into our new thought communities in such a beautiful way. And how do we integrate those two things and truly bring them together?
Yeah. That's the key. You're hitting on the key right there, which is the listen piece. Because the fire is never fully extinguished. From day to, and even beyond our physical death and our human death, the fire that is who we are cannot be extinguished. So it's always there. It's, are we truly listening, and are we then agreeing? Are we running away from it? And I've often said that once you understand the New Thought philosophy, you can pretend you don't understand it. But you can never deny that you are responsible, that you have the role you're playing in the creation of your experience. Once you understand this, you could try to stick your head in the sand. But you always know you have the opportunity, the ability, and the choice to pull your head up out of the sand. I said the sand.
Yes.
Yeah, the sand.
Let's keep it G-rated.
And once we pull our heads back up out of the sand, and we make that commitment that says, yes, okay. In 2020, in 2019, I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening to my mentors. I wasn't listening to the divine. I was barely even listening to myself, and my humanness was screaming at me to make changes in my life. My spirit side was screaming at me to make changes in my life, but I didn't want to believe. I had whatever that was going on. And then 2020 comes around, and well, we're all basically forced, without concern for whether you want to do this or not. Here you go. Change. All right. Change or cease. Change or go back to trying to stick your head in the sand. And for so many, and I just feel blessed by this, I had this philosophy when things looked the darkest, that was able to buoy me up and remind me that there is a power within me. I can make this change, but I got to listen for what wants to happen, rather than continuing to say, well, it's my way or the highway. When you give me this, then the old story of feeding a wood stove. You can't go to the stove and say, give me fire, and then I'll give you wood. You have to give the stove the wood before it can give you the heat. Yeah. And in 2020, I think every one of us on this planet were given that opportunity to say, are you ready and willing to step up to play a bigger game? And that's how you and I end up on a podcast like this, Eamon, is you have been willing again and again and again to step up and say, I'm willing to play a bigger game. And this is where every part of my life has converged into a singular focus. I can say the same for my work and my ministry, that this is that moment where everything I have ever done, every weird job I had in my 20s, every place where I should have said no, but I said yes, every place where I said no and I thought I regretted it, only to learn I was really grateful I said no to that. All of that has led each one of us to this unique point in time and history. And I've heard it said recently, I really like this, there are more enlightened and awakened souls on the planet now than ever before. There's a greater collection of an awakened energy, of a consciousness of oneness on this planet right now than has ever been here before.
Yeah.
We are witnessing the tipping point of human evolution right now.
Yeah.
In moving into this conscious spiritual beingness. I'm trying to remember what Barbara Marx Hubbard called it. Spiritual hominous spiritualists or something like that. Barbara Marx Hubbard came up with something before
Homo Luminous, I heard in a podcast today. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, there we go.
We're turning into Homo Luminous, the light beings that we truly are on some level, right? I mean, it's just a level of perception. Like we look to the denser level, the physical level, the mental level, emotional level, the spiritual level, these energetic levels. Yep. You know, we really are that. We're all of that. You know, we're not these one-dimensional beings, you know, oh, hey, I'm Eamon, I'm just a physical being, right? I am this greater experience. And how do we put it yesterday with Mark? This output or this input device, rather, this input and output device for the divine, for the cosmos, for the creativity of life of everything in the cosmos, and that we are this outpicturing of that through the process of evolution and development over billions of years of this planet to get it to the place where we are conscious beings on this, you know, Zoom call, you know, pondering what is the meaning of life, what is the deeper meaning, what is the soul purpose, and that's it is like that's been our evolutionary path, and now we're at this precipice. I agree, it is a huge time of change right now. Masculinity seems like it's almost going backwards in some levels. It's really going to the more traditional understanding of masculinity, which is not the next step, is not the, as we look at it, the evolution, that spiral evolution that's always moving upwards, right? To be able to say, yes, this is a crazy time, and it's calling all of us conscious beings, all of us light beings, all of us beings who want to participate in the evolution in this greater possibility of what we can do as human beings on this planet, and how we can impact this planet, how we can impact each other's lives, how we can impact our own life. You know, not to mention the people we love, and family and friends, community, and, you know, the nation and the world at large.
Mm-hmm. New Thought teaches, and if we can boil it down to one word, one thing that New Thought as a whole teaches, it's oneness. We teach how to experience oneness through love. We teach how to experience oneness through forgiveness. We teach how to listen to the oneness through our visionings and our meditations. And we teach how to direct the oneness and through our prayers. And it all boils down to that. What is this oneness that we talk about? And it can be a little tricky to get our heads around and get our hands on it and really get into, well, that means, yeah, that guy down the street that I don't agree with that has that sign in his lawn, that's oneness too. And I want us to, for me, what helps is, you mentioned the spiral. As we go around the spiral, at a higher consciousness, or let's call it maybe perhaps a little more mature consciousness that can see a greater perspective of the one, of the whole. And so what we think is a regression to more of the, let's say, toxic masculinity is actually a reflection of that toxic masculinity, but we're starting to see it through the lens of a higher perspective. And for me, it's helpful to remember that it's almost like if you in sci-fi movies, there would be a little wobble to the screen, and it would represent like a flashback, and we're sort of flashing back to the way it was, but we're seeing it as a reflection of people and things as they are today.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really the truth of what's happening today.
Yeah.
Because there's a greater consciousness on the planet today. And we're able, I think more people are able to see, oh, that was never really the truth. And it's showing up again. So this time around, more people will say, that's not how we do it around here anymore.
Yeah.
And we move into you've been challenging me a little, because I've had to explore this concept of, well, what is attuned masculinity then? Mm-hmm. Right? We don't want to see the toxic, and I don't even like using that term anymore. So how do we bring forward a greater sense of attuned masculinity onto the playing field?
Divine masculinity, absolutely.
Divine masculinity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the question that all of us men are asking ourselves right now. Hey, we've seen the changes. I mean, through the pandemic and through all the inequality that came out from that, or the cry for equality that came out from that. How do we be more conscious? How do we be more aware? How do we be open at the top? I love that you said that. And it's a famous quote from Ernest Holmes, who's one of the founders of New Thought. And how perfect is that? Like, be open at the top to a new thought. Well, what is that new thought? It's outside of that little paradigm box that says, this is who I am. This is what I do. Here's my patterned responses. Yep. Let me try something different. Let me be open to the possibility that there is something that this brain, this feeling system, this body has not come up against yet. And that's true inspiration. I think that's divine inspiration for us, Robert. I know you have it. I have it. We get to have that from time to time, to go, oh yeah, to remind us, to bless us, to encourage us to a certain extent, for me anyhow, stay the path. You're on the right path. It's like an affirmation almost. I'm like, hey, dude, you're okay. It's like those deja vus that you sometimes get. It's like, for me, that's like, oh wow, I felt this exact moment. Okay, I'm on the right path. For me, that's what it signifies, is that I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right thing. I'm where I need to be right now. That's how beautiful.
And this goes for some of our most sacred phrases ever. So you ready for a new thought? You ready for a new thought out there, folks?
Yeah.
Buckle up. I think buckle up. So many, many years ago, we were in a startup phase with a small community in Lafayette and Boulder area here in Colorado. And we had a booth at the Summer Street Fair, and every Thursday or whatever it was, we were out at the street fair, and we had the banner, and we had the banner with the classic line, change your thinking, change your life. And I remember very clearly a 20-something kind of young man walking up the street with a friend, watched him read our banner, watched him look at the banner, watched him read it out loud to his friend, and then say, why would I want to do that? I like my life. And keep right on walking. Wow, okay. Now, at the time, I'm going to store this memory, right? I'm not going to go chase this guy down and try to change his mind. I'm not going to go chase him down, or I'm just going to store this memory. And every so often it kind of pops up, and it makes for a nice little story around the campfire or whatever. But recently it's come to me that change your thinking, change your life is a formula, a directive formula that in some ways tells us that what we're thinking is wrong. And it's centered on, and this is a distinction I've been making a lot lately too, a rather immature understanding of the philosophy. Because change your thinking, change your life can be seen from the perspective of change what you are thinking, and you will change your life. However, what if we look at it from the perspective of change how you're thinking? And then witness how your life has changed. For many, we're taught the how we're thinking is based on old models. It's how my parents have always thought. Grandma, why do you cut the ends off of the roast? Because the pan we have is only that big, right? We have countless stories and little quips around changing what we think. But I want us to look at change. How do we go about changing how we think? And for me, that comes with a great sense of a deep surrender, a deep sense of trust. It's the listening that we've talked about. It's that letting go of all of the human constructs that go along with this thing called life, and really just falling into the divine. So how would Jesus approach this? That's a change of how to think it for me. For some, it may not be. That may be the default. How do I change how I think so that I get a different experience? Yeah,
that's an interesting thought. Because when we do change the system, the underlying system of the how that is pre-programmed, it could be, ancestral. It could be how we were brought up. It could be the religion, the parents, the teachers, the fellow students, the society, all of that stuff has really taught us how to view things, how to look at things. And a lot of people might say, yeah, why would I want? My life is great. What? My life is great.
I live in Boulder, Colorado. I'm a young 20-something. I've got beer money in my pocket and mountains out my back door. And what more, right? So now we do kind of touch on this sometimes because I just had this phrase and it just flew right out of my head again because it's one of these old, antiquated, new thought kind of philosophy. Yes. So we don't teach you what to think. We teach you how to think. Right. I find that to be true. For the most part, we do not teach people what to think. Yeah. Even though they want us to tell them that, even though that's what they think they want. We help people come to a better understanding of how am I thinking? How could I think differently? The mechanics of the principles that we teach. In 20 plus years, the number one piece of feedback that I have heard to almost every talk I have ever given to a public audience. Okay, and how do I do that? And even when I'm like, I told you from minute 16 to 18, I laid out how to do it. And then I wrapped it all up. Yeah, I'm sorry you didn't hear it, but I told you. But the number one thing people want to know, actually, so this is two parts. The number one thing that people want to know is what is my soul's purpose? And the number two question is, how do I do that?
Yeah, which obviously only they can answer really both of those questions.
Sorry, folks, but here's the we're going to draw back the curtain in ministry. We have none of the answers.
We have no answers for you. Sorry.
Sorry. You want the truth that hurts?
Let's stop the video here, though.
The truth that hurts is I do have the answers, and I'm going to tell you how to go live your life, and then it's not going to work. The truth that sets you free is I don't have the answers, but I can at least point you to what has helped me to find those answers.
And that's the spiritual path. Like, that's the spiritual path. It's, if you want, tell me how to do it and who I should be, join a religion. You know, the spiritual path asks us, who are you? And to seek that, it's not a statement, but it's a question, or even an inquiring of the deeper nature of us. Yes. Like who, like, you know, I always go back to this one from the Stoics of like, who am I and what am I here for? You know, those ancient Roman questions or Greek questions, you know, and the truth of it is it is that inner job. It's the inner work. It's the self-empowerment. It's taking responsibility for our life journey. And when that switches, I think a lot of people find new thought. When we realize, oh, I do have control over my life, what I think, what I believe, what I act on, what I feel, aligning those to my purpose, not repeating the same thoughts, you know, that neural pathway that once it starts to go down there, it's running the whole length of it. It's those old stories that we've been told or that we believed. And, you know, to be honest, that's our unconscious programming. That's the stuff that we just, when we're in zombie mode and we're just like, okay, I'm just getting by in life. I'm just doing whatever I'm doing to do it. Why would I change, you know, that kid? Like, why would I change? Why would I change anything? Yeah. You know, but when we have that realization, when we desire to really take control, you know, control, what does that really mean over our lives? That we're choosing the thoughts, we're choosing the actions, we're choosing the feelings, even that we want to experience, and nurturing the ones that we don't, and that we're writing over that program, those old programs, those old, you know, neural pathways that say, instead of go this way, nope, go over here. Right. Go to this new one that says, no, I am worthy, or I am loved, or I am abundant, or I am divine. Yeah. That really are those paradigm shifting beliefs. The
basic operating system is towards the good. Things are always working out for me. Everything necessary for the unfoldment of my life's mission and my soul's purpose comes into my life exactly as necessary. When our default is to those types of thought processes, again, how we are thinking. Yeah. And I don't. I've been saying this. Maybe this is a little arrogant. I guess I'll have to play with this a little bit more. But I feel like I'm kind of at a point where there are some basics to even get in the door to work with me. Yeah. I'm not here any longer to help people get through that basic initial, oh, you mean I'm inherently good? Because I'm going to operate from that from the get-go. And I want to work with people that have some maturity in this philosophy. I feel my calling is to serve those that are not just stepping in the door for the first day or the first week or the first year, but have some depth in understanding so that we can go. I heard it said this past week, and again, one of those old ones, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. I want us to go fast and far. I don't want to go alone, but I don't want to wait until everybody's ready to go. Let's get a group that are ready to go, and let's go far, and let's go deep, and let's find those places. And I know that I see the smile because I know this is part of you as well, sir, right? You want to work with men that want to go deep in men's work, not that want to just sit around and and play a drum at a campfire and talk about how much fun it was. We want to be there for each other in the transformative moments. We want to be there for each other. And that requires more than just a first day knowledge. It requires some maturity in understanding and practice of this, because when a group like that gets together, I've witnessed this at your retreats. When a group like that gets magic happens. Wow, power happens, and transformation happens in a big collective way. Not that Kumbaya spirituality of the 60s and the 70s. We're kind of done with that too, right?
Well, and it's I mean, all of it's necessary, right? That's the part of the spiral that we had to go through to get to this.
Yep.
To honor that history that had to happen for us to get here. But yeah, I agree, man. I'm ready. Like, new thought community is shifting. It's different. We're seeing out there what social media looks like, and we're thinking that's community. That is not community. That is somebody selling you something. Literally, that's the only thing it does. It sells you something or tries to change your mind for you to buy something or manipulate your mind in some way. That's not about freeing your mind. Like, if we have an algorithm in New Thought, our algorithm is how can we better your life? Not how can we get money out of you? Not how can we get you to, be a zombie, but how can we support you in thinking for yourself and being a part of genuine community, authentic community that really has an impact in our lives and isn't just there for the fluff or how was the ball game. I mean, all that stuff is nice, to just have those casual conversations. But this is about the deep conversation of the soul. That's not a casual conversation.
Right.
So that's
the fact that the Colorado Rockies are once again the worst team in baseball for like the 15th year in a row does absolutely nothing to further the conversation around human evolution. It's just the way it is. And to me, the fact that some other team is having their 15th winning season in a row is really, if you want to go celebrate that, I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying don't go to the ball game.
I'm not saying anything's wrong.
If you like watching the Rockies lose, go have a beer and a hot dog and go to the ball game. But if that becomes your identity, if that becomes what then that's, again, not moving the conversation around how we make this movement move forward. And that's what I'm about. Could I shift and pivot my whole persona and my whole business idea and my whole ministry and go become a commentator on baseball? Sure. Could I do that for, I don't know, music? Yes. I I understand. I know I can learn. I know I can put it into the universe. But isn't there, what is more fun, I think, than getting to do business with highly functioning and incredibly conscious human beings?
Yeah. Well, and back to, that soul purpose, like that, the deeper meaning is what I'm looking for in life. That's what I have been exploring for, many years in this philosophy. I do want to mention, like, I think there has been this process of evolution. Like, I just want to mention this book, Fire in the Belly by Sam Keen. It was written, I think, in the early 90s or something like that. And it had to do a lot with the mythopoetic men's tradition back in that day. Okay. And it was powerful. It was a powerful book on just finding authentic manhood. Like, what does that look like? And I think we're still there. We're still like on that hero's journey that Sam talks about, and that even before that, Joseph Campbell talks about, that hero's journey. We're on that path, and it would be like, the hero's journey to just die in the end. Okay, and now we're dead, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like there is this consciousness, there is this soul, there is this evolutionary push. There is this awareness that lives beyond this body. I mean, so many traditions have talked about that. So much study has gone into that. Science, we love science. We look at modern science that looks into that stuff. It's like, okay, what is the deeper nature of us, instead of just this superficial stuff, but going to the deeper, embracing the vulnerability, as Sam talks about in his book, the empathic, our connection to the earth, beyond this kind of lone wolf syndrome. As a man, I can do it myself. This, rugged individualism kind of philosophy that we're so fond of here in the West. Like, I can do it myself. And, I'm self-sufficient. And, that all of us, especially as men, that we can look at and go, yeah, I've got my stuff taken care of. But there is this greater context into which we're a part of, and that's the soul journey, the journey of the cosmos, the evolution of the cosmos, the greater unfoldment of the cosmos. And that requires us to dig deep and say, okay, what is my soul purpose? And to really seek it and to spend time with it and to figure that out. Like, I think has been one of the most worthwhile things that I have done with my life, is to continually be asking that question. Who am I? What am I here for? What's my soul longing? I hope you're enjoying this podcast. To connect with our community of like-minded men and access our full library, including summit talks, meditations, podcasts, weekly online men's groups, and so much more. Become a member today at newthoughtmens.community/membership. And now back to the podcast.
It is such an individual journey. And as you're sharing, I'm struck that, in many ways, I think the answer to the question you're asking lies in our understanding and recognition of the trans experience. Because right now, to me, that's where the cutting edge of what it means, of what is a working definition, what does it mean to be male, a man, to be in a community of men, to be manly enough to be in the boxing ring with other men, to be manly enough to be in a swimming pool, to be. And we're seeing the same thing on the female side of the equation as well, right? Of that we're blurring that there is no equals sign anymore. There is a deeper understanding. And for me, in all of it, it comes back to deeply we are one.
Okay.
Right now, the definition of what it means to be a man or a woman, I think has gotten to such a extreme level that we needed a greater demonstration of what it means to be neither, to be both. And to recognize that this is not a linear spectrum. It is a loop. It is a circle. And I've seen Reverend Dr. Deborah Johnson has a tool, and I would have to go look it up, that really shares a circular spectrum of what. So there is very little room that is all blue, and there is very little room on this circle that is all pink. Everything is a blend of that. So again, we get to come back to, how do I work with other humans? And can I show up as what I feel is my most authentic self? And am I showing up in places that are authentically open to these types of questions and to living these types of experiences.
Yeah.
A lot of churches aren't.
Yeah.
And a lot of New Thought communities would like to be, but aren't.
Mm.
And more, I see New Thought leaders willing to be in the discomfort of, I don't know how to talk about this, and I don't want to risk losing half my congregation, and I don't want to risk upsetting those that I don't understand and don't know how to talk to, and I need to find a way to navigate all of this. And it's a very unique time for all of us, I believe, to come to a deeper, I'm going to come back to that phrase, deeply we are one.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of hair color or body shape.
Yeah. Skin color, sexual preference, gender preference. Yeah, I think that, and just to be clear, like for us in New Thought, we have always been, LGBTQ friendly. That's a part of the diversity that we see, mm-hmm. Not only in sexual orientation or gender orientation, but, skin color, of just the variety of people. How wonderful, like we would be missing something. It's like I live in the mountains in Colorado, gratefully. But when I look out at the mountainside, it's not some, how I explain it, monocropped sort of scenario, right? Nature doesn't monocrop. Right. It doesn't try and create the same thing over and over again. It always wants to create something a little bit different. Even twins. It puts, twins come into they're still a little bit different. They can't have the same exact experience growing up. So it is this diversity that we really celebrate. And I think you're right, Robert. I think for me that the circle does, of course, our logo is a circle. So, so I totally get on board with that. But the circle does reflect us as individual better because we are it is the whole self, right? There may be masculine and feminine parts because they've been identified as that in our past. There may be those parts that we're working on that we're whether it's compassion or whether it's be more assertive or all of the many things that we get to participate in our life and that we want to have access to. Strength and confidence, but also sensitivity and empathy, all of these aspects of the whole self, which some would label as maybe some of these are masculine, some of these are feminine, some of these haven't even been defined yet. Oh, gender neutral or transgender or, non-binary even, we're not in either camp, So our community finds this to be a beautiful expression rather than something to be afraid of, something to push against. And I think that helps us, especially the LGBTQ community has helped us to push that boundary to say, why do we have to label these? Why do we have to put them into little boxes? Do we necessarily want to be men of the 50s, who are put into these little boxes? Here you go. Be a good provider and just go to work and come home and have your beer and, you're good to go. The family will run itself, just
and a couple of quaaludes on the weekend and you're good, right? Yeah.
But I think it is a beautiful thing that for us that we get to be a part of that greater exploration, that we get to be a part of this greater evolution as human beings that we're moving towards. Yes. Like who are we in the 21st century? Not who were we in the 19th century? Not really interested in that. Trying to get back there, trying to stop the forward motion of time, which is ridiculous. But how do we embrace the future evolution and understanding of what, for us, our vision is building healthy masculinity in the world. that is what I see as moving into this greater consciousness of really showing up with this new thought philosophy that is optimistic, that is positive, that is nurturing, that says, yes, we hold this high vision and this greater possibility for humanity and what's going on and what we're moving into, and who we are. As usual, we've gone, squirrel way off the beaten path here, Robert. But it's always wonderful to have these.
I'd like to think that we've gone exactly where Spirit most wanted us, needed us to go. This is what our audience, the audience that will see this, will be most impacted by our willingness to go off script.
Yeah,
because.
Absolutely.
Anytime that I inject my humanness on the divine plan, it's the risk of doing business with humans. If I put my humanness on the divine plan, I have no idea where it's going to really end up. But if I relax, surrender, trust in the divine, and follow that lead, then I can rest assured that we're going in the right direction, that we're going to serve in a way that is transformative and powerful. I want to share this before we wrap up. I've been doing a lot of writing over the last 6 months on Substack. And I've tried to take a different voice and a different approach to sharing the new thought philosophy in this way. And I'm no longer surprised at the level of emotional response I'm receiving from people in a good way. People, oh my gosh, that thing you wrote, oh my, that thing, this is exactly where, and it's provided me with another reminder that what's real and happening for me is real and happening for everyone in a slightly similar but also a slightly different way. And the unity of our lives does not mean uniformity. We're not here trying to create 100 of me and 100 of you and countless of we are here to embrace and empower the uniqueness that the divine is expressing as you, because that's what's changing the world, all of us together. We're no longer a small group of committed individuals. I think we are a growing crowd of committed individuals that are here changing the world.
Yeah, that want to be a part of that world changing.
So sign up, hit the subscribe button, the like button, get on Eamon's email list, get on my email, get on every email list you can, subscribe to every spiritual person you can on YouTube, and YouTube will give you more spiritual people to watch.
Yeah.
And less of the gloom and the doom and the politics and the news and the stuff that people think is wrong. Tune into what's going right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Robert, I want to just touch on this one thing before I ask you the final question. And you gave a couple questions at the end of your talk for the summit. And, if you haven't seen that, you can always join our membership to see all of our videos. But the things that you talked about were these two questions to ask yourself every day, or to journal about, to meditate on. What is my soul's purpose, and what do I need to know now?
Yep.
And it's just so simple. It's like, what is my soul's purpose? And honestly, that was essentially, it wasn't exactly the question, but the question that I sat with for almost a year before I said yes to going into ministerial school, before I said yes to starting the New Thought Men's community, was exactly that. And what I got back was, hey, take those two things, men's work you've been doing and New Thought, and put them together. And that's your gift to give. That's the joy that brings joy to my life, and fulfillment to my life. So those questions, just anything you want to say on those?
Absolutely. The first thing I want to say is don't believe yourself when you hear the answers to those questions. Don't buy into the first thing you hear. Don't believe your ego. Because when you start a process like this and you start listening and you start asking questions such as this, the ego aspect of ourselves is going to jump right up and try and make a case for itself, for why you shouldn't do what you're really called and why you should hide and what you can be doing to hide from it all. So don't believe the hype. You said it yourself, Eamon. You were asking this question for years. I asked this question for years in my visioning practice before I recognized there was that thing that just does not go away, that brings emotion to my eyes, even now as I think about sharing it with you, that is so real and so right there, and every time I ask the question, it is right there, not cognitively, but from that deep soul level, it is right there. That's when you know you've got it. And it might take 1,000 times, it might take 100, but it's going to take time to really answer that first question. For me, the answer that continually is right there is to love and be loved. And if I guide what I do in the world, if I bring love to it, if I'm allowing myself to be loved by the process and the people, then magic happens, miracles happen on a moment's notice. When I try to force my humanness on it, that's when things go astray. And so for me now, I ask that question, I get the answer, love and be loved, and then I get some details. Sometimes those details might still be me and my ego trying to influence the process. And I have determined for me a great way to recognize the ego voice and the divine voice. The ego voice often says, I will, or I am going to, or I need to. The divine speaks to us. And so when I hear you will, you are, you have, I recognize that is the divine speaking to me. And I've started to track this in my own journaling and my own meditations, that when the voice is speaking in that first person of I will, it is often the I, the humanness. But when I can hear the voice speaking to me, I have a deeper sense of trust that this is the divine speaking to me. So the second question in that is, what am I here to do today? What needs to happen today? What actions can I take today? And that is often just something that keeps me busy enough to trust the process and not question what I've been told is the soul's purpose.
Yeah, what's the next step in front of me? Absolutely.
What's the next step in front of me?
And yeah, it's pretty clear once we start listening to it. It's pretty clear. If the soul purpose, if your soul purpose is like, to do harm to another, that's not your soul purpose. Something is wrong in the process if you're not bettering yourself and others in the process. That's the whole point of that, is how do we better the world? I mean, we need so much environmental support, the environmental changes that are happening and going to happen for us as a planet, as a species, are going to need to be addressed. The societal, the monetary, on all of these different levels, the community level. What does that even mean? Going back to community. Why do we need community? How do we build community? Well, I guarantee you can get a bunch of opinions on Facebook, but you're not going to get somebody who's going to show up and support you in being. Maybe you will. Maybe you have good friends on there who will show up and who will be there and who will give you genuine community.
Right.
But it's not that hasn't been my experience. My experience is I've really only experienced genuine community in, the New Thought communities and other places too. I'm not saying it's not other places,
Sure.
But it's usually around spiritual stuff. It's usually around the higher frequency, higher understanding ideals, higher consciousness ideals.
And a lot of that really is built into intent, and the intent behind the platform that you're on, and how their intention is to make money or how their intention is to take money. And that's a whole nother podcast, folks. So maybe we'll come back and do that one at another time. But
and I think that's a good awareness to have and a good question to have. Or, how am I creating authentic community in my life? Mm-hmm. How do I have real friends that actually care about me? I'm grateful. New Thought people, I want to hang out with you and other people who are in New Thought. They're awesome people. They're visionary. They talk about really cool stuff and interesting stuff. That's for me. That's the cutting edge that I'm interested in. And not rehashing what was or what could be, or getting into arguments about, who's right and who's wrong, which is kind of a silly thing to argue about anyhow, because everybody's right and everybody's wrong. It's perception. It's all about perception.
Nothing like quite like a bunch of ministers getting dressed up in their robes and their hats and their stoles, arguing about what you can and can't wear. Right? The time, I believe more than anything, the time is now for everyone that has ever been touched by New Thought, that is any way connected with New Thought, to stand up as our authentic selves. Not as what someone else tells us we have to be or show how we have to show up, to use what we know, to live these principles, to live them as our daily, from breath to breath, in our subconscious, in our unconscious, in our dream state, and in our waking state, to live this philosophy. That is how we create heaven on earth. No question in my mind.
Create a world that works for everyone. For all.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Well, final question before we go. I know, even though we're over, I'm going to ask it anyhow.
I'm the king of running over on these.
Yeah. What is time anyhow?
Exactly.
So what does divine masculinity look like in the 21st century, Robert? Final question to you. What does divine masculinity look like?
I think more than anything, and knowing you would ask this question, I've been pondering this. I think it really is authentic living. It's not about the haircut. It's not about what colors you're wearing. It's not about whether you're wearing slacks or shorts or a skirt. It's about showing up authentically. And we are in a process where gender identities are being erased, blurred. That's been going on our entire lives. We just had nasty names for it when we were kids. We've grown and we've learned. The working roles, gender roles in the work environment. When I was a kid, being a male nurse was equivalent to, again, all kinds of horrible, nasty things we would say about people. And over time, we've come to understand that there is great respect and need for those that identify as male and men to come into the nursing industry and to other industries. And the crossover is happening in every way. So really, when I look at it, it's an embrace of our authenticity without trying to fulfill outside expectations.
Ooh, That last part's the tricky part.
Yep.
Those worldly expectations can get us.
Oh gosh, yes, right. And and I'm not saying this is easy, folks, right? Because I still shaved before I came onto this show, because I don't have a full and rich and beautiful and wonderful beard like you do, and I never will. I have stubble and patchy crap all over, and so I still shaved before showing up here tonight, because I still live by others' expectations of, I still believe you will take me more seriously clean shaven. I'm not saying it's something we will ever get over or escape, but I'm saying it. I do believe it is part of where healthy masculinity is going.
Yeah. To really bless that. And that is what we do here. We provide a safe environment for men to come into and be with other like-minded men of high spiritual consciousness. And that's such a joy to have that freedom, to have guys show up as a gay, straight, it doesn't matter. Like, we're just showing up as the human beings that we are. It's a safe place for us to be vulnerable, for us to share our lives, our authentic beliefs and what's going on. And sometimes we have some great conversations, even some heated conversations, and that's a beautiful thing. That's one of the things about freedom, is that we get to express our opinions, have our opinions, but we still get to be our authentic selves, and to express that. That was the promise, as I see it, or one of the many promises of America, and what we represent is getting to be our authentic selves, the possibility of being exactly who we want to be, who we dream of being. So yeah, thank you, Robert. Thank you. Mm-hmm. The authentic self. Yeah, I agree. I think that is a part of masculinity in the 21st century. Foundationally, because without that, what are we? We're a projection. We're a false representation. We're a societal expression of, this is what I think it is to be normal, look normal, act normal. We're out of the box. We're New Thought. We're out of the box, man.
and I believe that to not live this way, to be what you were just saying, it is actually a misuse of the law. But again, that's a whole nother conversation, and we've already kept you folks way too long. We're over by so much. So I want to say a quick thank you to Asa for producing this today, and also for editing all of this. So folks, if we're under an hour on the podcast, it's because Asa found all the stuff we didn't need to say and cleaned it up. But we want to thank you for being with us, and Eamon, thank you for having me on today. It's always a great time to connect and chat. So
Robert, brother, you are a true brother of mine, a soul brother of mine. We're on this journey together, and both doing our kind of own unique things that are pushing the boundaries of, spiritual community and expanding those boundaries. And I love you for it. I love your support. I love your encouragement. I love our friendship. So I so appreciate you and the wisdom that you bring. And so beautiful, Robert. I love you, bro. Yeah.
And so it is.
So it is. So, thank you so much for being here today, Robert. Everyone, thanks for joining us. There is more to come, so stay tuned in.